Hey everybody, Sean from SP Productions here, and you're not going to believe this, but today we're getting back to the Tomenosuke Blade Runner Blaster. So before we dive into the project for today, I just wanted to take a minute to talk about the 3-year hiatus I've been on with the Blaster project, and to an extended apology to all the subscribers out there who I've had a lot of people commenting that this was the reason I came to this channel and what happened to this build, you just abandoned it. And I hadn't abandoned it. I just, if you saw my last video, I picked up my first 3D printer and I went way down the 3D printing rabbit hole, and I got resin printers and FDM printers and bigger printers and started doing some commissioning work, which has all been really exciting. And I actually spent a good chunk of this year completely remodeling my shop. So you'll notice the things behind me look a little bit different than the last video I made, and I'll take you all through that in a separate video. But yeah, so before we start getting to work on this, I just wanted to extend a sincere thanks to everyone out there who subscribed because they wanted to see me actually build this, and to apologize for taking a wee bit of a break. Just to recap what I've done so far, so I've unboxed the kit, I've gotten it all prepped, I went and painted all the black parts, and then the next step, and probably a little bit of reservation on my part, which is maybe why subconsciously I've been putting this off, is the next step is to blue all of the silver looking metal parts that are largely make up kind of the exterior view of the blaster. And I've never blued a firearm before, so this will be a learning experience for me. And that's kind of part of the fun, is learning how to do something new. But I am a little bit scared because I haven't done it before and I don't want to ruin the part. But after having done some research, I'm pretty confident that, I'll be able to achieve a finish that I'm ultimately happy with. So without further ado, let's get back to it.
So there are a variety of bluing solutions available. The Tomenosuke instructions actually recommend using aluminum black, but I decided to go with the Birchwood KC Super Blue. I went with Super Blue because it advertises a darker finish when compared to Perma Blue, but it still offers a tinge of blue in its final finish as opposed to a straight black finish that you'd get from aluminum black. And since I'm going for a dark finish in an attempt to recreate the look of the screen used prop, I decided to try the Super Blue. And from the research I did, the key to successfully bluing is prep. So I went back over all the pieces that needed bluing, ensuring I was happy with their finishes, having to touch up a few areas with some more sanding and steel wool, and then cleaned everything off and let them dry overnight. At this point, it's important not to touch the bare metal with your hands, as the natural oils from handling can interfere with the bluing process. That is, you'll likely get fingerprints in the final blued finish. For the actual bluing, the instructions call for pouring some of the bluing solution into a smaller container and then applying it with an applicator swab. Since this was my first attempt at bluing, I started with a few of the smaller internal pieces to the blaster that would largely be covered up once assembled. What was really cool was that the reaction was almost immediate and the parts darkened up instantly. The instructions caution not to leave the solution on for more than 30 seconds at a time before you have to neutralize it by rinsing the part in cold water. After the bluing solution has been applied, you can then even out the finish with some light sanding or steel wool. After completing multiple passes with the Super Blue, I let the parts sit overnight so I could return with a fresh set of eyes. And while I would typically walk away thinking I had achieved a finish I was happy with, I was not as happy when I saw the parts the next day. For the smaller parts, the approach laid out in the instructions worked very well. However, for the larger, more visible pieces, such as the upper receiver, I did not have much success. The finish I kept getting was dark in some areas and lighter in others, and even the slightest bit of sanding or polishing with steel wool would strip off the darkened finish. So after a few failed attempts and having to completely strip the bluing off and starting all over again, I finally found a method that worked. I found a tall cup that could hold the receiver and then diluted Super Blue with cold water until the receiver was completely submerged, or at least as submerged as I could get it in the cup. I dipped the receiver in the diluted solution and swirled it around while slowly lifting it in and out of the solution in an attempt to avoid having any hard water lines. I tried different durations, but the 30 seconds recommended by the bluing solution instructions did not seem to have much effect. I'm guessing this was because the Super Blue had been diluted severely with water. So I finally just left the receiver in the solution for upwards of 5 minutes, much longer than the instructions specified. I then gently buffed the receiver with a soft towel to help even out the finish before neutralizing the bluing solution in cold water. It took a few passes, but I finally got a mostly even dark finish that I was happy with. Following which, I applied a coating of birchwood casey barricade to seal the parts and help prevent them from rusting. And while it took a few tries, I was ultimately happy with the finish that I achieved, and I always enjoy learning something new. With the parts painted and blued, I'm looking forward to the next step of this kit, assembly. So that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one, which I promise won't be 3 years from now.